He didn't call. Not after everything. Not after the years I spent overseas, the scars I earned, and the silent sacrifices I made. I was finally coming home, a decorated veteran ready to put down her pack. Instead, a single message appeared on my phone, sent from the man who was supposed to be my biggest fan. "Don't bother coming this Christmas. We decided it's best you stay away this year." It was as if a switch had been flipped, turning off the lights on a family I had fought for. There was no explanation, no apology, just a brutal final rejection. But I didn't crumble. 10 years in the military teaches you how to compartmentalize pain. My mind went quiet and clear. I typed a single word back. Fine. And I meant it. Not in the way you say it when you want someone to ask if you're okay. This was the final kind of fine. The kind that ends a conversation and begins a war. My fingers, still calloused from years of holding a rifle, scrolled through old emails until I found a dusty legal document I'd signed years ago. My eyes settled on a single clause, a small detail I had overlooked at the time. A cold, slow smile spread across my face as I realized what my family had done. They had just uninvited me from their home. They had no idea I held the deed to it. My name is Sergeant First Class Ashley Keller, U.S. Army, retired. For 10 years, my family was a photograph I carried in my pack through desert heat and firefights. It was the idea of home I fought for. But the thing about fighting for an idea is that you can't predict what it will look like when you finally get back. I had enlisted at 18, straight out of high school. It was an escape. My father saw me not as a daughter, but as a burden he hadn't asked for. My mother, bless her, was a passive peacemaker, always whispering, "Just don't make him angry." And my brother Derek learned early on that siding with my father meant peace, so he followed him like a shadow, taking his side in every argument. I played the good soldier. I never missed a call, a birthday, or an anniversary. I even sent checks home, no questions asked, hoping to buy their affection. My family never asked where the money came from. They never asked about the dangers I faced to earn it. They just took it, a steady stream of my combat pay that helped replace the roof, pay for my mother's knee surgery, and fund Derek's college tuition. I missed every holiday, every birthday, every family gathering, but they never seemed to notice. All I ever wanted was my father's approval, a validation that never came. The family home in a quiet suburb of Charlotte, North Carolina, was the one place I was supposed to belong. It was the place I imagined in my darkest moments, the place I fought to return to. My emotional well-being and my very definition of family were all tied to that one place, and I was about to learn that they had already replaced me in it. My first time home on leave for Christmas was a slap in the face. I arrived at the house, still in uniform, feeling a mix of exhaustion and excitement. I'd imagined a warm welcome, a hug from my dad, a moment of pride. Instead, before I had even taken my boots off, he pointed to a gutter overflowing with leaves. "Glad you're home, Ashley. See if you can fix that before it gets dark." No welcome home, no we're proud of you, just an order. The years of disappointment only escalated. When I made Sergeant First Class, I called home with the news. My mother said, "That's nice, dear," then immediately changed the subject to Derek's recent football trophy. My father, who was listening on the other line, said nothing. The silence was louder than any of the accolades I'd ever received. They never asked what I did for a living, but they were always eager to know what I earned. The requests for money came disguised as casual complaints. "The furnace is on its last legs," my mother would sigh. "Derek's tuition is just so expensive." I always sent money, no questions asked, hoping to buy their affection and prove my worth. They never asked what dangers I faced to earn it. They just cashed the checks. The true turning point happened 5 years ago, during a rare leave. My father was in financial trouble and needed to refinance the house, but his credit was shot. He asked me, with my stable military income and clean credit, to co-sign the new mortgage. He framed it as a simple formality to help the family. Desperate for his approval, I signed the papers without reading the fine print. I thought it meant I mattered. My final years of service were a blur of deployments and pain. I suffered a serious injury during a tour in Afghanistan. I spent months in physical therapy at Walter Reed. My family rarely called. When I finally spoke to my mother, I was told, "Don't tell your father the details. It makes him anxious." The isolation was profound. My family was a distant memory, a photograph I carried in my pack while I fought for my life. Now, medically discharged and finally coming home for good, I booked my flight, excited for the first real Christmas at home in a decade. Days before my flight, I received the cold, brutal text from my father telling me not to come. The reason was left unstated, making it even crueler. I thought the text was the worst part, the final clean cut. But then, while digging through my old files, I found the digital copy of that mortgage document I'd signed 5 years ago. I finally read the fine print. And that's when I realized my father hadn't just uninvited me from his home. He had accidentally given me the legal right to take it from him.
It took a moment for the words to sink in, a cold, clinical legal phrase buried in the fine print. In the event of primary borrower default, the cosigner assumes controlling interest over the property. I sat there, the flimsy paper feeling like a thunderbolt in my hands. The old me, the girl who craved their approval, would have missed it, but the soldier, the strategist, knew exactly what it meant. My military instincts took over. My first call wasn't to them. It was to a quiet contact I knew at a credit agency. Within minutes, I had my answer. My father, the man who prided himself on his impeccable reputation, had missed the last 3 mortgage payments. He was in default. The bank hadn't foreclosed yet, but legally, control had already shifted to me. The shock was a physical blow, but the anger was cold and clear. Why didn't they want me home? My family had replaced me. My brother Derek had moved his new fiancée, a woman from a wealthy family, into the house and into my old bedroom. My family was trying to present a perfect, stable image to her parents, who would be there for Christmas. Ashley, the unpredictable combat vet, with her scars and her quiet intensity, didn't fit into their picture-perfect lie. I was a liability, a loose end they had tried to snip away with a single text message. They weren't just banishing a daughter. They were hiding a liability. They had replaced me. My room, my seat at the table, my place in the family, all given to a stranger to impress them. They thought I was a ghost they could erase. They had no idea I was the landlord, and the rent was about to come due. I didn't get angry. Anger was a liability. It clouded judgment and exposed a weakness. My military training had taught me that in a real fight, a clear head was the deadliest weapon. So I got strategic. My first call wasn't to them. It was to a real estate lawyer, a fellow veteran named Sarah I had met during a seminar at my base. I laid out the facts, and Sarah listened, her silence a confirmation of the gravity of the situation. Within a day, we had drafted a formal letter, a cold, clinical document that was anything but a Christmas card. The letter was a masterpiece of passive aggression, void of emotion. It informed my parents of their mortgage default and stated that, as the cosigner, I was now exercising my right as the majority interest holder. It didn't mention family, love, or Christmas. It simply stated that a property management company would be contacting them shortly to discuss the terms of their tenancy. I imagined them in the family home, oblivious to the storm I had set in motion. They were probably decorating the living room, laughing with Derek's new fiancée, confident that I had accepted my exile and would remain silent as I always had. They had no idea that their picture-perfect Christmas was about to be shattered by a certified letter. The rent was about to come due, and it was going to be a lot more than just a mortgage payment. They thought they had uninvited a daughter. They were about to realize they had just invited a landlord.
The certified letter arrived 2 days before Christmas. The postman's ring of the bell was a jarring intrusion on the festive mood inside. Derek's fiancée, smiling and confident, was the one who answered the door. My father, who saw the certified mail slip, signed for it with a dismissive wave of his hand. He assumed it was from the bank, a standard notice. He was wrong. My family opened it together. The legal jargon was confusing at first, then the reality of the situation sank in. They were no longer homeowners. They were tenants in a house owned by the daughter they had just cast out. The fiancé's parents were due to arrive for Christmas dinner that evening, and the perfect, pristine world they had built was crumbling before their eyes. A flurry of panicked calls to my phone began. First Derek, angry and confused. "Ashley, what the hell is this? Dad's freaking out. What are you doing?" I answered him calmly. "All communications must now go through my legal counsel." He sputtered for a moment before I hung up. Then came my mother, sobbing and pleading. "Please, Rachel, don't do this. Can't we just talk about this?" I didn't give in. All communications must now go through my legal counsel. The final call was from my father. He was sputtering with rage, threatening me with lawsuits and family consequences. He thought he was in control. He was wrong. I cut him off. "You told me I wasn't welcome in your home. I agree. From now on, you'll be a guest in mine. The property manager will be there on December 26th for an initial inspection. I expect you to cooperate." I hung up, leaving him in stunned silence.
The family's perfect Christmas was ruined. The doorbell rang, and my father's face, once full of smug self-satisfaction, was now a mask of pure terror. Derek's fiancé's parents were at the door, and my family, stripped of their lies and pride, was forced to admit their financial and moral failings. The fiancé's parents, shocked and appalled, promptly left. My father's authority, the one thing he had always held over me, was shattered. I spent Christmas in a quiet cabin in the Blue Ridge Mountains. My victory wasn't in their misery, but in the profound peace of finally establishing an unbreakable boundary. There was no festive music, no twinkling lights, just the soft glow of a fireplace and the quiet satisfaction of a war finally won. A year later, the story of my revenge came full circle. I never evicted them. Instead, I forced them into a formal rental agreement. The rent payments went directly to pay off the mortgage I was now responsible for. I was in control. The family home, once a place of rejection, was now a symbol of my power and independence. In a final act of poetic justice, I used the property as the headquarters for a nonprofit I started to help other veterans transition back to civilian life. The house they once used to hide my existence was now a testament to my resilience. They had tried to erase me, but instead, I had rewritten their story and made it my own. I never kicked them out onto the street. I could have, but I didn't. Instead, I became their landlord. I forced them to acknowledge me, to deal with me not as the forgotten daughter, but as the person who literally owned the roof over their heads. Some would say it was a cruel, drawn-out punishment, but others might see it as the only language my father would ever understand, the language of power and control. It wasn't about the money. It was about respect. It was about forcing them to see the person they had tried so hard to erase. It was about reclaiming my own story. So I ask you, when someone hurts you this deeply, is a clean break better, or is forcing them to live with the consequences of their actions every single day the truer form of justice? Was becoming their landlord a cold-hearted power move? Or was it the only way to finally heal and reclaim my place in a story they tried to write me out of? Let me know your honest opinion in the comments below.